were talking last week about a belief that you had. Remind me what that was.
That you should always tell the truth.
Okay. So I really wanted to explore that a little bit more today. So tell me a little more about this belief. This you should always tell the truth. When do you feel like you first started believing that?
Probably as a result of my Christian upbringing. We were in church a lot. Not lying is one of the 10 Commandments, so, from a young age, it's kind of hammered into you that even at your own personal cost, you should always tell the truth because it's worth it. It's the right thing to do. So you
Okay.
should always tell the truth.
So from a very very young age, like that's just something that you kind of grew up with.
One of the fundamental building blocks of my personal moral code, probably, yeah.
Okay. Um, would you say that your friends and family share the similar belief, or would you say for they might feel differently? Kind of where do they fall on this belief?
I believe when it was being hammered into me as a young child, they would like to have espoused that belief, but I think having grown up and observed the other members of my family, they clearly don't, because everybody lies, even if they don't realize even if they're not intentionally lying, there are a lot of ways to lie. And telling the truth is just not something that is always suitable to the situation, as I've come to find.
Okay. Can you give me an example?
If one of my coworkers is doing a really poor job, and we're in a meeting, and we're going around giving suggestions on the quality or content of their work, and you're asked, what do you think? It's probably not the best idea to be blatantly and bluntly honest about things because then Todd cries when he goes home. But I think there are ways to avoid directly being completely true that behoove you more in personal situations, interpersonal situations, because it spares the other person's feelings. And I think at times that is more important than just blind, honest critique.
Okay.
Like, how's my picture? If my son, how's my picture, Dad? It's great. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
So I guess that kind of goes along with my next question was who is kind of benefiting from this belief and who's kind of suffering because of it or who is hurt by it. And I think you kind of addressed that a little bit when you said
Yeah.
certain types of honesty can hurt feelings. So I don't know if you want to touch on that a little more.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's kind of an axiomatic truth of the truth is that it's really the only thing that can hurt another person. Lying to somebody only hurts after they learn that it's a lie, or if it's destructive. If you tell somebody, you know, sure, you can walk over there, and they do, and they fall down a pit. Well, the truth of the matter is what hurt them, the lie didn't hurt them. But, yeah, I think interpersonal relationships demand a certain amount of subtlety that the truth doesn't always provide. And I think always telling the truth is something that arises from, I think, the human instinct to want to be part of a greater good, kind of an absolute morality, that telling the truth is always the right thing to do because it's the truth. And I think as you grow up and you grow into more of a philosophy of being a human being rather than trying to be this perfect idea, you realize that in fact is not always the case.
I mean, it sounds like you have a really good kind of handle on this. On the one hand, you said, I believe we should always tell the truth, but you've also, acknowledged that there are times where that might not be appropriate. So, it sounds like even though those are two conflicting things, that you've found a way to kind of marry them in your conscious so that they can coexist peacefully together.
I think so. I think I do my best to tell the truth when it's not going to be damaging to anybody's ego, to anybody's sense of worth. I try to tell the truth as often as possible, even to my own detriment if it's the right thing to do. But if it becomes to somebody else's detriment, it's something that I've backed off from doing. And that's not to say I lie intentionally all the time to people's faces or anything like that, but I think there's a gentleness to a certain species of lie that we can very easily tell one another that is better for everybody involved, because the impact of telling the truth in that matter is more on the scale of hurting a person and less on the scale of spreading some general grand moral scheme. And so in that case, I think it's probably not always right to tell the truth.
Okay. And do you feel like this is pretty consistent with how you would ideally like to see yourself?
I believe so.
Okay, awesome.
Mm-hmm.